Hi, this is Debbie from Lime Doodle Design, and today for Sam's Stamp I want to take this plush flower die from the recent Spring Plush release and turn it into a pouch. So a plush petal pouch. Don't try and say that fast 3 times. I'm going to use the Lipstick Party Felt collection. This is a beautiful wool felt in 3 different colours. It's really good quality, it's been imported from Italy, and I'm going to cut each of the colours with the plush flower die. So as not to waste any precious supplies, I've cut a corner from each of the different colours and I'm running that through the Big Shot machine. I've also got a metal shim within the sandwich. This increases the pressure and makes sure you get a good clean cut. The plush die cuts the outline and it also cuts all the stitching holes as well. Now I find that some of the felt will stick into the die, and I use a pokey tool. I can't remember where I got this one from, but I think Tim Holtz does one as well. And I find that you can rub a lot of the felt out of the holes, and then the ones that stay still you can just use your pokey tool to push them through, and you end up with almost like a felt ball confetti on your table. As pretty as this is, I haven't found a use for it yet. However, I do keep all my scraps. You never know when you're going to need a small die cut out of felt, and these scraps can be useful. How I store them is that I fold up the big pieces of felt and then I pop the scraps into the centre and then roll it up, and that keeps them all tidy, and yet they're there if you ever need them. Having cut the flower from the 3 different colours of felt, I've also cut some flower centres from some white felt, and I'm moving on to choosing some embroidery floss. I wanted colours that would contrast with the colour of the felt, so I chose, and think it was in the end, these are DMC colours. 600 is the dark pink, good to go with the light pink felt, 603 to go with the burgundy felt, and a white to go with that brighter pink felt. Embroidery floss consists of 6 strands, and I prefer to use just 3 of those strands. I don't like my stitching to be too thick, so I split it into 2 groups of 3 and then gently pull the strands apart. I can now thread the 3 strands of embroidery floss through my needle and start stitching. I'm starting with the flower centre, and I'm going to attach the embroidery floss to the back of the circle with a couple of stitches before lining it up with the middle of the flower. For the flower centres, I'm going to use a simple running stitch going up and down through the 2 felt layers, and this gives a stitch which alternates. You get a stitch, then a gap, then a stitch, then a gap. Once I've completed a full circle of the flower centre, I'm then going to do a running stitch out through the radiating lines that run from the flower centre out over the petals. Again, I'm going to do a simple running stitch, but then I'm going to come back on myself to complete the stitches so it looks like it's a continuous line of stitching. Now, I could do a back stitch, however I find that when you do a back stitch it's not so attractive on the back of the piece, and I want this to look nice from both sides. This process takes a little while, and I've sped the video up while I continue to stitch each of the lines that radiates out from the centre of the flower. And this is a great project to pick up when you've got a few moments spare, you know, if you're watching TV and you just want to keep your hands busy, or you're waiting on the kids at their activities. Having finished stitching all the petal lines, you can then secure the embroidery floss with a couple of stitches and then tuck it into the back of the petal flower centre and trim it so you don't have any loose threads. I think this is looking really pretty already and would make a lovely felt decoration, or maybe even a felt coaster. I thought that might be nice. Now we're going to make these flowers into bags, but once the recipient has finished with the bag, once they've eaten the goodies or they're taken the present out that's contained within the bag, the felt could equally laid back out into the decoration or the coaster and get a second use. In the same way that I did for the radiating lines, I'm also going to do a running stitch all the way around the edge of the petals, and then go back out and fill in the gaps with another line of running stitch, and that'll give the continuous line of stitching all the way around the edges of the petals. Having been around the flower edge twice to complete all the continuous row stitching, I'm then going to tie the ends in a neat knot and trim so that it's nice and tidy. Hopefully you'll agree that stitching in this way means that the back is almost as pretty as the front, and that when the bag is opened the inside is still going to be attractive, or equally if this was used as a coaster or some other decoration, that the back is still going to look nice. Now it's time to show you how to turn this flower into a bag, and I've got some embroidery floss on my needle, same 3 strands as I had before, and I'm going to go through the hole on the top of each of the petals, going in and out, and then eventually when I've been through all of the petals and come back to my original petal, I can then pull on the embroidery floss like you would a drawstring bag. Once you've gathered the petals together, you can then manipulate them to create a nice shape for your pouch, and the stitch lines help with this, I think. The circle on the bottom also gives it a nice sturdy base so that it's going to stand up. This pouch would be great for containing any small gift. It would make a lovely wedding favour. I'm going to turn them into some Easter pouches because that's not too far away, and I've popped some Cadbury's mini eggs in there, drawn the drawstrings together again, and then you can tie that up with a bow and you've got a lovely pouch with some yummy treats for Easter. I did like the way the embroidery floss tied the pouch together and the fact that it toned with the stitching. However, I did think something with a little bit more substance might look better. So I've threaded some organza ribbon through the petals in the same way that I had the embroidery floss and then tied that into a bow. I've also stitched up the other two flowers in exactly the same way, so I've now got 3 chocolate-filled pouches to play with. I don't think these pouches need much decoration as they're cute as they are, but I am going to add a Happy Easter tag, and I'm using the bundle of stitch shapes dies, and I've taken out the tag die from that and cut it from some Nina Solar White card in the £80 weight. I've then mounted the Happy Easter sentiment from Springtime Critters onto an acrylic block and stamping the tags with intense black ink. I can then untie the organza ribbon, pop it through the tag, add a button and tie it back up into a bow, and I think that just adds a nice finishing touch. I've added the tags and the ribbons to the other 2 pouches, and I think these make really cute chocolatey Easter treats. However, they would work equally well as a party or a wedding favour, and it's great to think that we're getting more use out of our dies. I want to thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.